Present. Honorable Edmund Yazzie. Honorable Eugene So. Honorable Edmund Yazzie. Madam Chair, you have 3 members present.
Thank you for that. Thank you, Lorraine. With that, we do have 3 members present, which constitutes a quorum. We'll go ahead and proceed forward to the invocation. I am looking at the line right now, and I see that we do have people on the line who are present here. Normally, we do have a Law and Order Committee member who does say the prayer for us this morning. However, I do see that we have the Azet Ben Nagaha President, Mr. Willie Tracy, on the line. And I'd like to recognize the Honorable Willie Tracy, former delegate with the Navajo Nation Council, who is also the Azet Ben Nagaha President. Shaja'a, can you do the invocation for us this morning?
Law and Order Committee was out Ado Concha Holji Celine, a large concha away Yatananta, Ado and the Ke Gun a conscion 9, Ado and the Celadocum, a Conhoni, Londadini, the co, Ado and the Equage, a members in Lenigi, a Eugene Sodo, at many yards, now, a Tato, Le Sodan, Adam, a Dahwizne. Ako ikwe ikishoni londo dibik ahol jisto lesigi kuyet eya aske seneligi ego bigije yat kon jonego kepa hojonigi be nanigi indeta eya kon ne je hol jisto be nana do lesigi ado lependanish bik eta halne ado indeta iban yata na bik yata Ado nahat atak as. Bijin ta case yat egin jonigi di kode keda huit in de eya nachachine ni toke ni nalike hanishin ayi khande hanishin yisi ba eya nahat ako ba balana huin zan ba jo ba ko in zan bijje eya jonigo nahat tanzet ego bi nego bo de nengo bo net long Konye eya in hain la dole, chapa in la dole, but seje hun long, but hun long, ako konye na hahadot, asegit au hanishin yobi ye, it wait or cheese do coin yo need long, ados tuido sani, kojagon lego, hagoshin na il de hat nego quite but had the hun need long, konye eya as chinada as tra. Ado and the Dama Jebanan Shindat here. Dan team Bakago that has on it all. You Salaf so Keda with Echo. Sadikon Sladin Sass and the Libigije Conage Ada Des. Eat on label Lago, Totsat Nago Dako. A conde the Nen hit the name Abiga Nil Ego, Dan Juno, a James Need or list, Dan Juonago 80 Quare, Benashin. He is dead up in Yaho, Agi, Bijit, Adot Egon Jonon, his one long do this con, need hard Din Hinland, Idan Limi Badajo, Baye, a cohoban, Chingi da Hodlo, Bama, Bije, Biche, Benalle, Bike, Coho, a conde equaja Aye, Nishjagi, Ego, Nahanaz, a coho, what ego, Eben in Nago, Hojon sort of Zamban Ladole. Hojon Bahasi do listen Sunye, the whole dispigage. Quajet Sanje and Zahakis, Sanje Queens and a conde the Benebi, Nalak Eliadole, at the Hagon Nation, Nahayat Edon Han Jongon, a con and Hassel Kido, Nahain Sengo, the Nahat Agi or Anjano, Horn Nath on Lejeto, Haha the Doljish, the Bananisi Candole, the Benebi. Dibe Honha Shada now consonant Yasin. Hojonasli, Hojonasli, Hojonasli.
Mr. Willie Tracy, thank you for providing us an invocation. Every now and then, as a committee, we do invite people who are listening on, especially those who are going to be presenting, to say a prayer on behalf of the committee. It's always good to recognize our people that way. So I want to say, thank you for that beautiful prayer this morning for the Law and Order Committee, and then also for leadership as a whole, and then for our children too. So thank you for that. So with that, we're going to go ahead and proceed forward to recognizing guests and visiting officials. We do have 3 members of the Law and Order Committee who have announced their presence. Do we have any other delegates on the line who wish to announce themselves at this time?
Madam Chair.
Go ahead.
Delegate Edmund Yazzie, the floor is yours.
Yes, I'm sorry, Ms. Crotty. I'm on call, FYI, okay?
Thank you, Delegate Yazzie. Thank you for announcing yourself. Let the record reflect that Delegate Edmund Yazzie has joined the Law and Order Committee call this morning. Chair Crotty, the floor is yours.
This is Delegate Amber Kanoswa-Crotty. I'm on the call. Thank you very much.
Good morning, Shadeja, Delegate Crotty. Thank you for being on the call with us this morning. Do we have any other delegates on the line who wish to announce themselves? Not hearing anything, we'll go ahead and proceed forward. Do we have anybody from the office of this, the Speaker's office on the line?
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the Law and Order Committee. This is Nikita Kirk, Legislative Staff Assistant with Office of the Speaker, and I'm on the call. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kirk. Do we have anybody from Office of Legislative Counsel on the line?
Good morning. This is Loya Khanalachni Henderson with Legislative Counsel present this morning. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Henderson. We did receive a text message from Chief Legislative Counsel, Ms. Dana Bobroff, who has sent Ms. Henderson to assist the Law and Order Committee today. So thank you, Ms. Henderson, for being on the line. Do we have anybody from Office of Legislative Services on the line, aside from Sherelle and also Lorraine Spencer? Okay, not hearing anything. Do we have anybody from the judicial branch on the line?
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the Law and Order Committee. This is Karen Francis from Office of the Chief Justice.
Good morning, Ms. Francis, and thank you for joining us on the line this morning here at the Law and Order Committee meeting. Do we have anybody from the Office of the President and Vice President on the line?
Good morning, Madam Chair. This is Leonard Sosi with OPVP. Thank you.
Good morning, Mr. Sosi. Thank you for being on the line. Do we have anybody, any of the executive directors on the line? Do we have anybody from the chapters on the line? Do we have anybody on the line who I have not called upon who wishes to announce themselves for the record? Okay, not hearing anything, we'll go ahead and proceed forward to the next item on the agenda. We do have review and adopt the agenda. Before I call for a motion and a second, I'd like to ask Ms. Lorraine Spencer if you could read the agenda into the record.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair and members of the Law and Order Committee and those that are on the call. Agenda of the Law and Order Committee, 24th Navajo Nation Council, regular meeting through telecommunication, August 22nd, 22nd and 2022, 10 a.m. Presiding Honorable Eugenia Charles Newton, Chairwoman, Honorable Otto So, Vice Chairperson. 1, call meeting to order, roll call and invocation. Number 2, recognize guests and visiting officials. Number 3, review and adopt agenda. Number 4, review and adopt the journals. There are 4 journals that are on the agenda. And on August 8th, 2022, during the LOC meeting, no motion or second was made and the journals were deferred to the next meeting. 5, receiving reports. A, report from Honorable Eugenia Charles Newton, Chairwoman, Law and Order Committee regarding the Navajo Nation Victims' Rights Bill. B, report from Amber Kanazwat-Crotty, Chairwoman, SAT Subcommittee on the 17th Annual Government to Government Violence Against Women Tribal Consultation Meeting on September 21st through 23rd, 2022 in Anchorage, Alaska. 6, old business, none. 7, new business. A, legislation number 0149-22, and action relating to the resources and development, health, education, and human services, law and order, and Navajo committees opposing states the decriminalization of use of peyote, sponsored by Honorable Eugenia Charles Newton. 8, close the meeting, announcement and adjournment. Madam Chair, thank you.
Thank you for that, Lorraine. So with that, committee members, the agenda has been read into the record. Can I get a motion and a second?
Motion, Delegate James.
Motion made by Honorable Vince James. Can I get a second?
Second.
Second made by Delegate Edmund Yazzie. So with that, we do have a motion and a second. Committee members, are there any questions, any comments, or any amendments that you'd like to make to the agenda at this time?
Madam Chair?
Vice Chair Otto So, was that you who second, or was that Edmund Yazzie who second?
That was Edmund that second.
Okay, just making sure. Vice Chair, the floor is yours.
Yes, on the review and adoption of the agenda, I would like to move the legislation to be heard before the reports. So that's going to be my motion for amendment number 1. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Vice Chair. Motion has been made, colleagues, to amend the agenda to hear the legislation under new business A first before reports. Committee members, the motion has been made by Vice Chair Otto So. Can I get a second? Second call, committee members, a motion has been made by Vice Chair Otto So to hear the legislation 0149-22 first before we get to our reports. I do need a second.
Second, Delegate James.
Second by Delegate Vince James. Committee members, our first amendment has been provided. Are there any questions or comments regarding amendment number 1? Not hearing anything, we'll go ahead and proceed forward. Sherelle, can you assist us with a roll call vote for amendment number 1?
Yes. Honorable Vince James, how do you vote? Honorable Eugene So, Honorable Vince James votes green. Honorable Eugene So, how do you vote? Honorable Otto So, how do you vote?
I vote green.
Honorable Otto So votes green. Honorable Edmund Yazzie, how do you vote? Honorable Eugene So, how do you vote? Honorable Edmund Yazzie, how do you vote? Honorable Madam Chair, Eugenia Charles Newton, you have 2 in favor, 0 opposed, and 3 not voting, Madam Chair.
Thank you for that, Sherelle. With amendment number 1, 2 in favor, 0 opposed, 3 not voting, this amendment does pass. We'll go ahead and go back to the main motion. We are on review and adopt the agenda. Committee members, are there any other questions, any comments, or is there another motion for another amendment? Okay, not hearing anything. Lorraine, can you go ahead and read the agenda into the record with amendment number 1? And then I'm going to go ahead and call for the vote.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. So call the agenda, number 1, number 2, number 3, and number 4 will stay the same. So number 5 will be legislation number 0149-22. Following that will be number 6, receiving reports, and then 7, old business, and then 8. Madam Chair, thank you.
Thank you for that, Lorraine. So with that, committee members, the agenda has been read into the record with the amendment number 1 being reflected in the rereading of the agenda. A motion and a second has been established. I'm going to go ahead and proceed forward at this time to call for the vote. Sherelle, can you assist us with roll call vote, please, with the agenda and 1 amendment?
Okay, thank you. Honorable Vince James, how do you vote?
Delegate James votes green.
Honorable Vince James votes green. Honorable Eugene So, how do you vote? Honorable Otto So, how do you vote?
Also votes green.
Honorable Otto So votes green. Honorable Edmund Yazi, how do you vote? Honorable Eugene So, how do you vote? Honorable Edmund Yazi, how do you vote? Honorable Madam Chair, Charles Newton, you have 2 in favor, 0 opposed, and 3 not voting. Madam Chair.
Thank you for that, Sherelle. So with that, the agenda does pass. We do have an agenda before us at this time, committee members. So with that, we'll go ahead and proceed forward to item number 4, review and adopt the journals. We do have 4 journals that have been sent to us. The journal for June 27th, 2022, the journal for July 5th, 2022, the journal for July 11th, 2022, and the journal for July 25th, 2022. Committee members, we can handle the vote in 2 ways. One is we can accept each journal, making a motion and a second for each individual journal. Or committee members, we can go ahead and do a motion and a second to accept all 4 journals with 1 vote. How would the committee like to proceed?
Madam Chair, I motion to accept all as is, as one motion on the journals that have been written, has been put on the agenda for June 27, 2022, July 5th, 2022, July 11th, 2022, and July 25th, 2022. I motion to accept it all in all time.
Thank you for that, Vice Chair. A motion has been made, committee members, to accept all 4 journals with 1 motion. That means that if we get a second, we will have 1 vote to accept all 4 journals. So with that, committee members, can I get a second? Motion has been made by Honorable Honorable Otto So, Vice Chair for Law and Order Committee, to accept all 4 journals. A motion has been established. This is the second call for a second.
Delegate James.
Second made by Honorable Vince James. So with that, committee members, are there any questions or any comments at this time regarding the journals for June 27th, 2022, July 5th, 2022, July 11th, 2022, and July 27th, 2022? Not hearing anything from the committee members. Sherelle, can you assist us with the roll call vote to accept all 4 journals?
Honorable Vince James, how do you vote?
Delegate Jam votes green.
Honorable Vince James votes green. Honorable Eugene So, how do you vote? Honorable Otto So, how do you vote?
Vote green.
Honorable Otto So votes green. Honorable Edmund Yazi, how do you vote?
Green.
Honorable Edmund Yazi votes green. Honorable Eugene So, how do you vote? Honorable Madam Chair Charles Newton, you have 3 in favor, 0 opposed, and Chair not voting, Chair.
Thank you for that, Sherelle. So with a vote of 3 in favor, 0 opposed, 2 not voting, the journals, the 4 journals listed on the agenda are hereby accepted. Thank you. So with that, we'll go ahead and move down to item number 5. There was an amendment made to the agenda. Item number 5 is now new business. Under 5A, we have legislation number 0149-22. At this time, I'd like to ask Vice Chair Otto So if he could go ahead and take the chair at this time, as this is my legislation.
Okay, thank you very much, Madam Chair, for the and turning the gavel over to me. With that, staff, we are on legislation 5A. Can I have staff read the legislation into the record?
Yes, thank you, Vice Chair and members of the Law and Order Committee members. Tracking number 0149-22, an action relating to resources and development, health, education, and human services, law and order, and Navajo committees opposing state's decriminalization of the use of peyote. Following that will be Exhibit A, which is the resolution of the Nation Incorporated, and following that is the 5-day comment that went through the process. And there are some digital comments that are received. There are 25 comments that are received, and comments and recommendation, there's one. They're all attached to the legislation and has gone through the Resources and Development Committee, and it was passed at RDC meeting. Following that is the Health, Education, and Human Services Committee report, and that also passed at the committee level. Mr. Vice Chair, thank you.
Luciana, we have the legislation here on the floor, and which was read into the record. We have the sponsor present also. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and call for a motion at this time. Here the
Motion, Delegate James.
Honorable James, I'm going to call for seconding motion.
Okay, thanks. Another.
Honorable Eugene So. For the record, Eugene So is on the line. Staff. So with that, we have the motion in place, second in place, and we have the sponsor on the line here. And this legislation that is read into the record at this time. Do we before I go to the sponsor, I'm going to ask the committee members. We could do 2 ways. We could go ahead and we got the legislation read into the record. One option is to hear the sponsor do a presentation. One. The other option is, if there's no questions to this, we could move forward with roll call vote on this legislation. So with that, hold on. Not too sure who, just a reminder, Shanant, please mute your phone. And also those of you guys on the line too, please mute your phone so that you're not interfering with what is spoken on the record here. Sad. No the recorders. These meetings are transcribed, and so therefore please mute your phone.
O ashon de dishnik gilta. Second time, yeah, we'll have this the staff just to kick off the person that's not doing that. So *6 mute *6 press naji, yeah, it takes it off of mute. So that's a way to practice also. So for muting and unmuting. So with that, how do you guys proceed to move forward? This legislation that has been read into the record. Do you have any questions to this particular legislation at this time? If there's no questions, I'm going to go ahead and move to roll call vote. If you have no questions, if you have questions, I will give time to the presenter. So I'm going to give it case. Law and Order Committee member going once. Committee members, again, going twice. Last one, committee member is going 3 times. So there's no questions pertaining to this particular legislation. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and move forward to roll call vote. We have a motion that's in place that was put in place by Honorable Vince James and seconding motion by Honorable Eugene So. So this legislation in particular to opposing the legalization of peyote. I'm going to go ahead and move forward for roll call vote. So Sherelle, proceed with roll call vote.
Honorable Vince James, how do you vote?
Delegate Jam votes green.
Honorable Vince James votes green. Honorable Eugene So, how do you vote? Honorable Otto So, how do you vote?
I'm chairing the meeting.
Sorry about that, Chair. Honorable Edmund Yazi, how do you vote?
I'm sorry. Green.
Honorable Edmund Yazi votes green. Honorable Eugene So votes green. Honorable Eugenia Charles Newton, how do you vote?
Delegate Charles Newton votes green.
Honorable Eugenia Charles Newton votes green. Honorable Vice Chair Otto So, you have 4 in favor, 0 opposed, and Vice Chair not voting, Chair.
Thank you very much. Motion carries. Did I hear 4 in favor?
Yes, 4 in favor.
Okay, 4 in favor, 0 opposed, and with Vice Chair not voting at this time. So motion carries. And this legislation proceeds on to the next standing committee here after the committee documents, committee resolution is signed. So after Law and Order Committee, this legislation is destined for Nabakiat Committee, which is the final authority on this particular legislation. So thank you very much, Madam Chair, for presenting, having your legislation on the today's agenda. So with that, I'm going to turn the microphone, the gavel back over to Madam Chair. Or correction, Madam Chair has to make a report. So going to go on to 5A, reports. Report A, Honorable Eugenia Charles Newton, Chairwoman for Law and Order Committee, regarding making a report to this committee regarding the Navajo Victim Rights Bill. So we have Madam Chair on the line also at this time. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and just proceed to get a motion in place. That way, when the report is done, after the question, we just go into a roll call vote. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and ask for a motion.
Oh, okay, basic.
Motion by Honorable Eugene So, seconding motion. Seconding motion for report from Madam Chair Charles Newton.
Second, Delegate James.
Honorable James. seconding the motion. With that, we have a motion placed, second in place. We have the sponsor on Madam Chair on the line to present the report to the committee. So with that, Madam Chair, you know the formalities of the committee structure. So and you know the guidelines pertaining to the rules here with law and order. So you have the floor, Madam Chair.
Yeah, Vice Chair, thank you for taking the chair at this time. Also, committee members, thank you very much for motioning and for the second. I would like to report to the Law and Order Committee that for the last few months, I have been working with the Prosecutor's Office, Delegate Crotty, and also I believe we presented this at the Sexual Assault Prevention Subcommittee, but there is an amendment that is being proposed at this time regarding the victims' crimes or the victim rights crime legislation. Currently in Title 17, it is located within the Navajo Nation Code. However, it's only a half a page or maybe even a fourth of a page. The rights that are allowed to be given to our Navajo people who are victims of crimes. What we are trying to do is we are trying to strengthen that because of the push that is happening nationally with the Violence Against Women's Act, as well as the other legislations that are coming down the line that allow for victims to have more rights than those who are the perpetrators who are committing crimes against them. And so we have been working again with the prosecutor's office to try to strengthen that legislation. At this time, we do have the victims' rights legislation almost ready to go. The drafts have been submitted to myself. I believe that Delegate Crotty also got a copy of that. Delegate Crotty is on the line right now. And we are here to present to the Law and Order Committee the information about this legislation that's going to be coming down. We have not dropped the legislation yet. We are still working with the various groups and also working with Delegate Crotty to make sure that the language is suffice. And then I just recently met with the prosecutor's office at the 29th at the 29th annual.
Hold on, Madam Chair. Hold on, Madam Chair. I think that's and the number, three numbers ending in last 928 number. The last number is 140. Mute your phone. And I won't take this time from you, Madam Chair. You keep asking and asking. Mute your phone. Thank you. I'll continue, Madam Chair.
Thank you for that, Vice Chair. Again, the legislation has been written, but we are currently working with Delegate Crotty and various groups to make sure that we are covering this legislation precisely. The title of the legislation is Enacting the Navajo Nation Victims' Victims' Bill of Rights Act. Which amends Title I of the Navajo Nation Code, the Navajo Nation Bill of Rights, and amending Title 13 of the Navajo Nation Code, the Law and Order, Chapter 13. So that's what we do have at this time. I believe, I don't think it's, there is one correction that has to be made, and that is, it is amending Title 13. I don't believe it's amending Title 13. I believe it's amending Title 17. Again, as I stated, currently the victim rights is covered under Title 17. And so I think that's one of the corrections that has to be made. It's currently under 17 Navajo Nation Code Section 536, which is titled Victims' Rights, and it's under the Violence Against Family Act. Again, the proposed legislation at this time is several pages. It does give victims more rights in terms of what they're entitled to with the process. what they're entitled to in terms of the sharing of information, what they're entitled to in terms of working with the Navajo Nation via the prosecutor's office, also the police department, criminal investigations. So I do want to just make that known at this time. Again, I have not dropped the legislation. It is ready. It's in draft form, and we have been working with various committees. I'd like to turn the floor over to Chair Shadeja, Chair Crotty, who may be able to add some more information into this. And I would like to just remind committee members that Delegate Crotty and I have been invited to Anchorage, Alaska, to provide testimony on the Violence Against Women's Act with the tribal consultation. Last week at the Tribal Interior Budget Council, I did make that announcement, and the Department of Interior, as well as other leaders on the line, were really excited and happy to hear that Navajo would be presenting and be providing some testimony there at the tribal consultation. And I also informed them of this legislation that will be dropped here, and hopefully we'll be able to vote on this during fall session. So at this time, I'd like to ask Delegate Crotty if there's anything that she would like to add in on this report. Delegate Crotty?
Thank
Hey,
you,
Madam Chair, you have
Madam.
Madam Chair Crowdy, you have the floor. I'm sorry.
Yeah, thank you, Pro Tem. She has also the Senate Chair Charles Newton and committee members. In terms of the work on the Victim Rights Bill, this has been a nearly 7-year-long process. On the 23rd Navajo Nation Council, our team attempted to have a comprehensive amendment to Title 17. Unfortunately, there were too many inconsistencies, and so we're not able at this time to provide that comprehensive Title 17. But in speaking with our families, survivors, and advocates, the victim rights section was a priority. And so we'll continue to move forward and hope that we have, with the expertise of this committee, support from the council, from the Office of President and Vice President, so that this is going to be a paradigm shift. And what I mean by that is when an individual contacts law enforcement for assistance, whether it's an assault, a rape, homicide, that there are certain, et cetera, that there are certain rights that they are provided, and it will also support the advocates as we build up our advocate program, our community-based and system-based advocate program, that these individuals are also protected with their rights to provide services to the victims and survivors of crime on Navajo Nation. In our research and community assessments, it is clear that individuals, residents, relatives will call law enforcement and unfortunately do not have the type of communication or resources needed. And so our community-based advocates are now being deployed across Navajo Nation to provide those services. They were on scene the next day after the Gallup incident. We had our Utah team come down and provide support. They've also have been deployed when there has been other cases in the community, some that have been high profile to the point where they have to travel out of state to help support our victims and survivors of crime, where initially the crime may have taken place on Navajo Nation, and ultimately the individual or the perpetrator was caught out of state, and so providing those services. In that effort, we reviewed what rights our victims and survivors have here on the nation, and feel that this is an area that we definitely can, as a council and as leadership, strengthen, looking at surrounding tribes and other surrounding states. And so we'll move forward For example, there will be a system to be required to notify a victim or survivor if their perpetrator, if their abuser is going to be released, that survivor and victim will be notified. For example, during COVID and the detention centers did release individuals, the families that were impacted called our office and were concerned that they were not given any notification that there was going to be an early release of these individuals. And so enacting some of these laws will be at the very least providing some baseline communication, also keeping all of criminal justice accountable, as we'll have a clearer process in terms of how these cases are addressed. The last thing I do want to mention, we are reviewing a draft report from the Office of Navajo Nation Prosecutor. I would suggest once that report is finalized, that this committee review in terms of what are the challenges the nation is having with our attorney generals from the 3 states in prosecuting these major crimes in a timely way. And so the next step for us will be working collectively together to remove some of the statutes of limitation, especially when it comes to child sex crimes. Right now, we're currently at a 3-year limitation. And now, as we look at the data and how long it takes to prosecute a case federally, we run out of time to be able to prosecute, or the Office of Prosecutor does not have the resources to prosecute concurrently, which is also available. So in this budget, we were able, at Budget and Finance, to find some additional funding to support the Office of the Prosecutor in their unmet need, but they will also need additional support from the Oversight Committee in terms of how we want to scale up and how we want to provide these services across our criminal justice system. Thank you very much, Chair Charles Noon and Pro Tem Otto So. I am finished with my discussion. Thank you.
Very much, Madam Chair. Yeah, I'll come back to you.
Thank you for that, Vice Chair. So again, it is this victim rights legislation is currently being drafted, and we are working with Chief Prosecutor Vernon Jackson, as well as Prosecutor Tyson Yazzie, who's also provided us some input on the legislation. I have reviewed all of the recommendations, and I did meet with both Vernon Jackson, or I met with Vernon Jackson last week and a couple of his prosecutors last week to discuss this legislation and to let them know that we will be presenting it. However, this is a report that is being provided to the Law and Order Committee to inform you of this legislation that's going to be coming down the pipeline. And I'm hoping that we can call a work session with Law and Order Committee and the Prosecutor's Office and the Sexual Assault Prevention Subcommittee, and any group that wants to come forward to provide us some input into the victims' rights legislation. The purpose of that is so that we can move this legislation forward and not have any roadblocks as far as delegates coming out and asking if we met with people to discuss this. This legislation is so important. It affects the entire Navajo people on the Navajo Nation, as it reflects in Title 17. And then also the stories that the committee has been hearing from various families who have come forward. Delegate Crotty did mention, how families are not being informed of people being released, people that they may have call the police on, especially when we're dealing with, family matters. So hopefully with this victims' rights legislation, it'll give them more rights to be informed of that nature, and putting that responsibility on law enforcement to communicate with families so that they are aware of what is happening, not only in the justice system with their cases, but also the fact that people are being released, I guess, before being called into court. So with that, committee members, I do stand for questions at this time. So I thank you for your time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That completes your report, Madam Chair. And Madam Chairwoman, also Honorable Crotty, that we have a motion in place pertaining to this report made by Gene So. We have a seconding motion by Honorable Vince Jane. And this particular report is regarding the Victims' Rights Bill. Victim Rights Bill. O AG Ikoni Ishan Elia. O Are Isnos Agi Aje Ego Dite the Net Kidia the Nehadik Ada Kedia Do the Nehadik Ada Yego Istiko A Aje Behes Ani Aje Bebich Aje Ba Be Hadis Nehiki A Ya Hata A Ya Bahan Ako Akon Chairwoman, Madam Chair Eugenia Charles Newton, Do Sexual Assault Prevention Subcommittee, Madam Chair Honorable Karate, Ego in the South, Dashin Sago Yahod Net. For D Yakodo Ya Nihija Ishan Alia. So, but the Nishton, the hard like Yahod Net or Obahan Net. Ako kodo ya na dikhi kodo reshwan an the panas nili na has hani kapiche kodo di khai ko ya tada keso it angi khai ya ben igi hadik ya tada kesi kapiche kodo le with that committee members, I am going to go ahead and go to the floor. Is there any questions to the report that has been provided by Madam Chair at this time? Any members going once? Committee members going twice? And committee members going 3 times? No question, but Madam Chair, I just would like to just pose a couple of comments that this Victims' Right Bill that's been in the form of drafting and the communication that's going on between the Navajo Nation Council or the legislative branch and the Department of Justice. I think we need to have maybe a direct update on this pertaining to just a update on it from their viewpoint, also from the Department of Justice and the prosecutors, so that we have some sort of dialogue. And what I would suggest is that we plan something for like a Saturday. That way, I know that our schedule is very bazonk. We are pulled out of pulled each and every other way, and I think that even on if we can meet on the Sunday, that's fine. That way, we can try to fit this into our schedule to get a little bit more information as this moves forth, because the very important thing is that the crafting of this legislation, that by the time we get to the legislation drafted and it is dropped, what I would like to really have is the whole committee to be all on one part, all on one page, so that when the legislation hits the 5-day comment period and we start and the committee portion starts, that all the committee members are all on one page and we're not singing different songs at the floor of the council. It's good that we are moving forward with this Victims' Rights Bill for the Navajo Nation. So so na yego kato was na kiliado the na that's open. That's just going to be my comment. Just my recommendation, and Ms. Spencer, can you go ahead and get something out so that we could start planning something like on the weekend? I know that staff, your schedule for the weekend is very hard at this time to schedule, but for the council, we're bombarded with work with the through the legislative branch and so if we could work with us to try to see what weekend is good for you guys, and we could strategize on that, and we can try to meet that goal, and maybe we can meet somewhere like at Twin Arrows or something like that to have a discussion on it at the committee level, so that we're all on one page again on this, so that we can be unison behind this bill that's coming forth. So that's just an overture staff, because we're gonna have to work with you too. So on this, and see what dates are good for you guys, and let's try to get this informal meeting together so that we're all on one page as we get to the presentation of legislation when it hits the floor. That's just my comment, and I guess staff, go ahead and start working on that. So with that, Madam Chair, I'm just giving some time just to comment on my comment. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Vice Chair, for that recommendation.
You have not entered any numbers.
I can say, Vice Chair, that so one of the things that we did talk about
You are in the
at
meeting
last
now.
week's
There
meeting
are more than
is
20
that
participants in the meeting.
Chief Prosecutor Vernon Jackson did recommend that we come together with Director Delmar and with Police Department, Criminal Investigations, Prosecutor's Office, Department of Justice, and set aside at least 1 week to go through the Title 17. As you know, Vice Chair, we have been working on that Title 17, the amendments that need to be made to go through Title 17, to also go through this victims' rights crime legislation, and then to also talk about the infrastructure. So right now, Vice Chair, I am currently on the investment committee meeting to talk about the infrastructure for public safety and justice that is needed. And so what we did talk about last week is the possibility that we may not be ready for fall session, and we may have to call a public safety and justice special NABIC ETKIT meeting after fall session. And then also, in that NABI meeting, and then also call a special council session specifically for public safety and justice that would cover the revisions to Title 17 that would also include the victims' rights crime legislation, and then also to discuss the public safety and justice facility needs. Again, I am on the investment committee meeting right now as we speak, getting ready to present to them the needs that are out there for all of the facilities that Law and Order is aware of. So with that, Chief Prosecutor Vernon Jackson, he did recommend 1 week. And so we put together a tentative idea of how that 1 week is going to go. So that Monday, the Law and Order Committee would be presenting to the Chief Prosecutor, to Division of Public Safety, to Department of Justice, the work that has been done, and then letting them know, the legislations that have been written, and the amendments that have to be made to Title 17, and then leaving them alone Tuesday and Wednesday coming back together on Thursday with the chief prosecutor and the team that they'll be having there, and going through, the suggestions that they have. That way, it's one whole week devoted towards getting Title 17 ready. So that's the plan that we have at this time. And I was just preparing this morning an email to the leaders, letting them know that we need to set this time aside. So I'm going to call a leadership meeting on Friday, September 2nd at 8 o'clock in the morning. And it's going to be just a quick 30-minute meeting to talk about, what days we are available. During that time, Law and Order Committee will also be assisting. So we probably will more than likely, what they're recommending is 1 week. So we are looking at 1 week, just focused on Title 17, focused on all of the legislations that have been dropped regarding crime, and then public safety and justice. So that's the plan at this time, Vice Chair. And we're looking at possibly the end of October, because the judicial branch, they have 1 week where they don't have any cases that are heard, and that gives the judicial branch some time to, for the judges to come together. So we're hoping that during that week, no cases will be called, that will allow the prosecutor's office and also Division of Public Safety to come together to look at the revisions to Title 17 and to start moving that forward. So that is the plan at this time, Vice Chair. So that's why we're saying that there's a possibility that it won't be ready until after fall session. So we'll be calling a special council meeting during that time. Thank you, Vice Chair.
Okay, thank you very much, Madam Chair, for your report. With that, we have a motion in place, and we have a second in place, which is held by Honorable Eugene So and Honorable Rick James. And earlier, I did require to call on committee members for questioning. We didn't hear anything, but I did make a comment, and that comment was answered, and the planning is ongoing. And I just would like staff, Maureen, to go ahead and work with the prosecutor's office to try to get that, and the judicial branch to get that 1 week of informal meeting pertaining to the to this amendment to the bill. So, so with that, I'm going to go ahead and move forward to call roll call vote. Rel, thank you.
Honorable Vince James, how do you vote?
Delegate Jam votes green.
Honorable Vince James votes green. Honorable Eugenia Charles Newton, how do you vote?
Delegate Charles Newton votes green.
Thank you. Honorable Eugenia Charles Newton votes green. Honorable Eugene So, how do you vote? Honorable Eugene So votes green. Honorable Edmund Yazi, how do you vote?
Green.
Honorable Edmund Yazi votes green. Honorable Vice Chair Otto So, you have 4 in favor, 0 opposed, and Vice Chair not voting. Chair.
Thank you very much. With that, motion carried. 4 in favor, 0 opposed. And Vice Chair, with the Vice Chair not voting. Thank you very much, Madam Chair, for your report pertaining to the victim rights bill. So, and I believe Madam Chair is probably busy with the meeting, so being on 2 different calls. So I'm gonna, if it's okay, Madam Chair, I'm gonna go ahead and proceed with the meeting.
Yes, Vice Chair, I would really appreciate that. Thank you so much. Again, I apologize, committee members. I'm on the investment committee. I'll be presenting the needs for public safety and justice to the investment committee. So I'm on both calls. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's go on to the next item on the report, on report B. Can I get staff to go ahead and read the record into the read that into the record? Okay. indicates that report from Honorable Amber Kenneth Karate, Chairwoman of Sexual Assault Prevention Subcommittee on the 17th Annual Government-to-Government Violence Against Women Tribal Consultation Meeting on September 21st through the 23rd, 2022 in Anchorage, Alaska. So we do have Madam Chair on the line at this time. And with that, before I go ahead and proceed, I'm going to go ahead and ask for a motion.
Motion by Charles Newton.
Motion by Honorable Madam Chair. Charles Newton. Seconding motion. Seconding motion, Honorable Eugene So. We have this in place, and we have the sponsor on the line, we have Madam Chair Amber Kenneth Karate on the line. So, Madam Chair, you have the floor, and you understand the committee rules, and you have the floor at this time. You can proceed, Madam Chair. Staff, can you hear me?
We can hear you, Vice Chair.
Okay. Madam Chair.
Okay, here.
Okay, you have it. You're on the ground. You have the floor now, Madam Chair.
Thank you. I apologize, Pro Tem. I was speaking while muted. I did star 6. I apologize. So I'm here today to provide a brief report to the Law and Order Committee on the upcoming 17th Annual Government-to-Government Violence Against Women Tribal Consultation. Due to the ongoing COVID-19 national pandemic and the uncertainty about the future medical trends, the Department of Justice will continue to implement measures to protect the safety and health of tribal leaders and others who attend this tribal consultation in person. So there will be an option for those tribal leaders, including members of this committee, who want to testify virtually. And if it becomes unsafe for meeting in person, the whole consultation will be conducted via a virtual platform. We'll be joined not only by the Department of Justice, but the United States Department of Health and Human Services and the Interior will be present. So pursuant to 34 U.S.C. Section 2012-6, the purpose of the Violence Against Women Tribal Consultation is to solicit recommendations from tribal leaders on the following 4 topics. So this year, their focus is on administering tribal funds and programs, enhancing the safety of Indian women from domestic violence, dating violence, sexual assault, homicide, stalking, and sex trafficking, strengthening the federal response to such crimes, and improving the access to local, regional, state, and federal crime information databases and criminal justice information systems. And so I will forward to the committee this Dear Tribal letter. And briefly in this report, I wanted to just glean from last year's tribal consultation and from the voice of Secretary Holland, who recognized Ashton Mike in her efforts and their family's efforts to provide a safe community for not only our children, our families, our veterans, and elders. And so we are going to continue to review the Missing and Murdered Unit, the implementation of the Not Invisible Act. I do represent the Navajo Nation Commission, and I'm co-chair of the Section 1 Law Enforcement. So we've been working with Navajo Nation law enforcement to answer questions and to provide recommendations to our federal partners. There's also the White House Council on Native American Affairs. And so they are determined to use all of government approach to develop actionable goals for Indian country and Alaska Native villages. The council will coordinate with tribal nations as it advances on key issues such as public safety and justice. There's also the President Joe Biden's investment in Indian country. And so it includes a $4.2 billion, an increase for the Department of Interior, and this includes over $500 million for the BIA Public Safety and Justice Programs, which will provide funding in operations of tribal law enforcement, support the missing and murdered unit, and expand workforce capacity for police services and detention and corrections, and support tribal courts. So this is important. Committee members as oversight, and I could assist as a member of the Budget and Finance, is to see from that $500 million what Navajo Nation programs have applied for and how they have taken advantage of this increased funding. But in terms of a summary from last year's consultation, we were in the midst of the COVID-19 response. And so at that time, we had seen domestic abuse rise on Navajo Nation. And so during this period, law enforcement had seen an increase to law enforcement calls and arrests for domestic violence. We also looked at strengthening the tribal-federal relationship, the complementary efforts to increase federal prosecution of Indian country domestic violence. So our response was the Navajo Nation is currently unable to address every domestic violence incident that is reported to the Navajo law enforcement. Throughout Indian country, there's a pervasive underfunding of tribal law enforcement, coupled with systemic non-investigation and non-prosecution of crimes for which the federal government has concurrent criminal jurisdictions. Our recommendations is the Navajo Nation calls upon the FBI and the DOJ to increase its investigation and prosecution of domestic violence in Indian country, and to better share that data with tribal communities. To ensure timely law enforcement response, the Navajo Nation is hindered in our efforts to improve the safety of our members and our broader community because of the chronic delays in response time of state and federal enforcement. The delay, response time combined with the jurisdictional complexities arising out of the unique interplay of criminal jurisdiction on tribal lands regarding tribal and non-tribal victims and defendants put lives at real risk. So our recommendation, the Navajo Nation calls upon the Office of Violence Against Women to investigate ways to improve law enforcement response time, to implement training and education initiatives to help clarify jurisdictional issues. There's also recommendations to support the enforcement of tribal courts and judgments. VAWA, which is the Violence Against Women Act, provides that domestic violence protection orders issued by a tribal court will be afforded full faith and credit by state and federal courts. Enforcement of tribal orders outside of the exterior boundaries of a reservation is essential to ensuring the public safety of tribal members and the underlying efficacy of all domestic violence prevention and prosecution efforts. Reciprocal enforcement of Navajo Nation court orders is also critical to honoring our status as sovereign nation and respecting law enforcement decisions. Other areas are ensuring that agencies with jurisdiction over Indian country are involved in interagency efforts to address domestic violence. The Navajo Nation hopes to increase participation by federal agencies working in or with Indian country in cross-government efforts to address domestic and sexual violence in all of its forms. In particular, the Navajo Nation hopes to see the BIA, the DOJ Office of Tribal Justice, the DOI, Bureau of Indian Education, and the Department of Education Office for Civil Rights, the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, and all related tribal advisory committees as participants and collaborators in these ongoing studies, initiatives, and discussions. Additionally, interagency efforts must include representatives with experience in early childhood development and should include representatives and non-governmental organizations representing urban Indian, LGBTQI+, and youth organizations. And so because of time, I'm just going to go over the other topics where we discuss how to strengthen the tribal and federal relationship to improve data collections and sharing support for a more robust and collaborative data collection and sharing. Topic 4, we're strengthening tribal programs on our grants. Topic 5 was dedicated funding to help grow tribal police forces. The Navajo Nation currently does not have the capacity to handle all of the domestic violence issues on the nation's land. The nation does not have enough police officers to provide sufficient domestic dispute resolution. The Navajo Nation Department of Public Safety has about 200 police officers and 30 criminal investigators that cover approximately 18 million acres of Navajo land. Violent crime in the Navajo Nation is increasing, and murder within the Navajo Nation is 4 times the national average on a population per capita basis. The Navajo law enforcement responding on an average of 40 homicides per year. And I will go to topic 6, so strengthening the federal framework, legislative actions. We'll be working with the Navajo Nation Washington office. I've spoken to the current executive director, Lashana So, and her colleague, Justin Hasteen, and they'll be providing some additional support as we will, we're happy that the Violence Against Women Act was passed and signed by President Biden. There are still other legislative actions that we will need to continue to support. Pro Tem Chair, this is just a very high-level summary of the type and work and dedication we start pulling together to prep for the tribal consultation. I do want to make sure that the committee knows that they are also invited as tribal leaders to provide any testimony or to include into this written report. The main area of concern is always that as Navajo Nation, we speak with the same goals and the same intentions. And so that does not cause any confusion within our federal partners, and how we look to not only fund our law enforcement, but looking at how our courts can be supportive, prevention efforts when it comes to our behavioral health programs, how we integrate our cultural teachings and values throughout this process, and working with the Dene advisory team who are looking at issues such as violence, substance abuse, suicidal ideation, and our missing and murdered Dene relatives. So Pro Tem, I will turn it back over to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do you hear me at this time, staff?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Thank you very much, Madam Chair. We have a motion in place by Madam Chair Eugenia Charles Newton, and also by Eugene So holding the second motion. With that, and before I turn it over to the floor, that what Madam Chair has alluded to is a conference pertaining to the Government to Government Violence Against Women Act direct travel consultation. Washington Lini pa kodoba hado to andahas hasna. Don't the ya kodo stoban shayem hit on that so in on here so the sharpness so ben ha hot it and you're gonna have to start planning that. The other thing too is that they are looking at the COVID restrictions. Washington Lini that the second option on that is that there's an option to be a part of the travel consultation virtually. It basically young been the card so I hot it or I don't know for this no single so I the testimony be on it. She's the Hikiti by Bahwin in the Bahati no single so Ben Hitch hot it or hot got I go oh what up Ben Hitch is station and with that I'm gonna go ahead and move to the floor. Law and Order Committee members, do you have any questions posed to Madam Chair, Amber Tennisbaugh Crowley, pertaining to the report that she has presented to this body pertaining to the government-to-government relation, conversation relating to the tribal consultation regarding the Violence Against Women Act that has on. Law and Order Committee members, do you have any questions pertaining to Madam Chair's presentation?
Vice Chair.
This is Delegate James.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and go to Honorable James, and then I'm going to go to Madam Chair Charles Newton at this time. So, Honorable James, you have the floor.
Pro Temp Chair, Ado presenters no Linigi, I hope you have your pen and your paper ready or your laptop ready because I have quite a bit of questions. A large on his akad out hinanish eho konzata hol leako ado on higa to nihinil jojo hinanish sagi ako aje hik linigi baby inda huiste to baby kita huiljishiki ako hidini dole kode dole. Thank you very much, Pro Tense.
Madam Chair, or correction, thank you very much, Mr. James, for posing those questions. So I'm going to go on to Madam Chair at this time.
Thank you, Vice Chair, and thank you, Shadeja Delegate Chair Crotty, for the presentation. As usual, you're always very prepared in the way that you present to the committee. I know that you have a written statement in front of you. Is it possible that we could get a copy of that written statement at Law and Order Committee so that we could add in, where the suggestions for strengthening VAWA, especially here on the Navajo Nation? I know you covered a few of the issues, but I can also say that at the Tribal Interior Budget Council meeting last week, we did talk about a few things that that I guess is important for this tribal consultation. Number one is that the Department of Interior did inform us tribal leaders that they're working on a database to collect better information. But what they're asking for is they need feedback from tribes. So they're supposed to be sending me information on that so that I can send that out to leadership to let them know that this database is being collected, or this database is being built right now, but it falls back to, what kind of questions need to be asked. And I know that one of the tribal leaders had asked, is there a box specific to like a VAWA? Is there a box specific to the Adam Walsh Act? Is there a box that is specific to hate crimes? And so that was one of the suggestions that they did take. So I think that we do have, we can provide some feedback in terms of the data that Department of Interior is wanting to collect for purposes of providing public safety and justice to Indian country. Number two is, you mentioned the shortage of funding. We were alluded to a gap analysis. And if you Google the public safety gap analysis, there is a link that does come up. And the reason why this gap analysis was brought up is because we were informed also that one of the tribes in the Northern Plains is actually suing the Department of Interior, the Bureau of Indian Affairs, because of the gap analysis that has been, that was published and put out there. And Indian country is not even meeting the needs of public safety and justice. So we were asked to contact the tribe, and for the life of me, I don't have my notes in front of me, but I want to say that that the name that was given to me Peggy, I believe was her name. I can't remember her last name right offhand. I have it in my notes. But she is the one who's giving information. And they're asking, whether the tribes want to kind of join forces to bring this suit against Bureau of Indian Affairs regarding the gap analysis that has been published by the Department of Justice regarding public safety and justice and how that's been neglected here in Indian country. So that's number 2. And number 3 is at the 29th annual Four Corners Conference, we were informed that a tribal liaison has been assigned just for Navajo. So each tribe is going to be given a tribal liaison through the U.S. Attorney's Office. And our tribal liaison that has been assigned to Navajo is Kyle Maybach. Delegate Crotty, I'm sure you've heard his name before. He was the U.S. Attorney. I believe he headed the region here within the Southwest area. So he is now Navajo's tribal liaison. And I'm sharing this information because we're talking about, the data and the cases that are coming down the pipelines that we need to be aware of. And so Kyle is going to be regularly going to be informing the Law and Order Committee on what is happening at the federal level. This is the first time that a tribal liaison has been assigned specifically to Navajo from the U.S. Attorney's Office. So Law and Order Committee members, there has been a request from Mr. Nabak to introduce himself to the committee and to also be a regular listener in on the committee meeting so that he knows what's happening here in Indian country. In a way, I think it's good news to hear that we do have a tribal liaison that has been assigned only for Navajo. And he's already made contact with me to ask if he can be part of Law and Order Committee as reporting and then also listening in. So we'll be making contact with him. The fourth thing, the Delegate Karate, that I wanted to bring to your attention is we also talked about at the Tribal Interior Budget Council, how we can improve the behavioral health and whether 638 contracts can be created specifically for they were looking at like the rehabilitation for alcohol, rehabilitation for drug usage. And because right now we do have a 638 contract, but it just kind of it's glossed over in the sense that it's very general services that are being provided to Indian country. And so a lot of tribal leaders were asking whether we can get something specific to assisting our relatives in that sense. And so that discussion, we're supposed to have a special meeting on that. And so I will inform the committee members as well as Delegate Crowdy when we have that meeting to have this discussion with the Department of Interior of how we can improve the 638 contract that is offered to tribes, and that the ones that are specific to behavioral health. Mental health is the other one as well. So those are 4 things that I do want to touch upon, and that's why I was asking if we can get a copy of the written report that you have, so I can maybe reach out to you so we can try to include what was discussed at the Tribal Interior Budget Council, and then also what was discussed at the 29th annual Four Corners Indian Conference that was held last week at Glendale, as well as the information that we have here from Law and Order Committee. And just as a reminder, colleagues, the Tribal Interior Budget Council, we do meet 2 to 3 times a year to try to set the budget for the next 2 years. And right now, there has been an increase in public safety and justice, but there has been a decrease in other areas as well. There has also been an increase in funding. I believe it's at this with the Senate, and there's been a decrease in funding to the executive branch. All of that does affect funding coming out to Indian country as a whole. And so all of that was discussed last week. So usually what happens is we get kind of a summary of a report of what was discussed and what's going to be moving forward. But in terms of the data, the behavioral health, those are separate meetings that will be set by the Tribal Interior Budget Council or through Department of Interior so that we can get a little bit more information on those two specifically. But I did make Speaker Damon aware of the push by the Northern Plains tribes, to sue the federal government because of the gap analysis that was reported on through the Department of Justice, and how the Indian country is kind of being neglected in that sense. So with that, I just want to report that to the committee, and then also to Delegate Crotty, that the VAWA, the tribal consultation, was brought up on several occasions through TIBIC, through the Tribal Interior Budget Council. And we did have our regional leaders there on the call. And so it has, through the process of the four topics that will be discussed at VAWA, they were kind of, inserting how they're planning to address those 4 topics. So with that, Vice Chair, I don't have any questions. I just wanted to inform the committee, and also Chair Crotty as to the meeting that was discussed, or the Tribal Interior Budget Council, as well as the 29th Annual Indian Country Conference that I attended in Glendale. And I do apologize. Again, I'm on 2 meetings, and I'm trying to listen in to what's happening at the Investment Committee, as well as reporting to the committee what happened last week at TIBIC. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Madam Chair. Honorable James, can you restate your question? The reason why I say that is you told us to get all our pins out and all our papers out, and if you can restate your question for Madam Chair, so that we could properly address your questions you posed to Madam Chair Amber Kenneth-Makrati.
Honorable
James.
Thank you. In regards to
Honorable James, are you still on the line?
Madam Chair, we don't hear Honorable James on the line. He may have fell off the line. Honorable James, are you still on the line? Honorable James. We'll come back to Honorable James when he gets back on the line, Madam Chair. Crotty. So I'll go ahead and maybe give some time to provide some statements or some comments pertaining to the comments that Madam Chair has posed. So, Madam Chair, Crotty, you have the floor.
Put in the queue.
So we can hear you now. We can hear you now. Honorable James, we lost you for so go ahead, you can proceed.
Thank you, Don Chanel. Again, Pro Tem, I apologize. I don't know why I'm not getting good signal here at Delegate's office, but I'm outside right now. In regards to my question that I had was, how far back does the information, the reports go back that you guys are going to share? And how many families are involved in the report that you're going to be providing in Alaska, or even within our own legislations that we have before us? So, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Honorable James. Madam Chair, I'm going to go back to you, and then I'll come back to Eugene So. Madam Chair, you have the floor.
Thank you, Pro Tem Chair Otto Shiaj, and for the questions from my Delegate. events change. So in terms of how far back do we go, this is the 17th year of this particular tribal consultation. Myself, we've been involved in these tribal consultations for the past 8 years. And every year, the Office of Violence Against Women propose 4 questions. We call them framing questions. And so those are the questions that our federal partners are interested in hearing a direct response from Navajo Nation and other Native nations. What we do in addition to those 4 questions is work with the different Navajo Nation programs and the courts to provide a comprehensive view of the challenges here on Navajo Nation. So in terms of how far back does this go, this is the 17th year, and we've consistently provided our, either through oral testimony, in person, or most definitely as written comments on behalf of Navajo Nation. I do want to mention in one of my earlier experiences, so that may have been like 2016, I had to wait 13 hours to provide testimony on behalf of Navajo Nation. That is the amount of crime and violence that is happening in Indian country. And that is why now the consultation is more than just one day. So tribal leadership has an opportunity to provide their oral testimony in addition to supply our written comments. In 2019, prior to COVID, we were able as a council to submit a resolution. And our hope is that this year, just depending on our situation with Legislative Council, is if we could get a resolution approved by the time that a written testimony is the deadline. And so written testimony will be in October. And so we'll have that final information be presented before the council. Now, when you asked how many families are involved for this particular testimony in the written comments, historically, we have not included families or names or survivors. And we've taken that route just to make sure in terms of their healing or in terms of their process of what has happened, that if we do share stories from the families and have prior authorization, or the families have asked us to tell their story, we'll usually do that in the oral setting. And so in terms of how many families are involved, particular families are not identified, but their stories are encapsulated with the response to the questions and the recommendations from the Navajo Nation. Something that we can envision this year is internally developing, I mentioned the Dene action plan. I kind of confused that with our advisory board, but we also then can create a logic model off of these recommendations and identify who is the point of contact, what is the timeline, and what are we doing to implement some of our recommendations. So it's not just annually we're providing these recommendations, but throughout the year, working with the different oversights and of course the subcommittee of sexual assault prevention in making sure that we're progressing in some of these areas. And because there's an area called the Tribal Access Program, and I'll need the help of the oversight committee because maybe about 5 years ago, the judicial branch has opted out of this program, but in their memo and in discussions with the current Chief Justice, they've opted out because there's a provision in our Title 17 that identify Navajo Nation Police Department to be inputting all of those protection orders. Now, when we follow up and look at the TAP system, we're not seeing that information being entered consistently. And so those are areas internally that we can bring to the awareness of leadership and then have some accountability from the programs, or understand if they're understaffed or under-resourced, then what are some of the solutions collectively we can come together to help address some of those issues. So, Madam Chair, I appreciate the update regarding the database and how, and if the nation is accurately or using the Adam Walsh and other federal guidelines. That is part of what we consider like our internal discussion that we need to have with the statistics section of our criminal justice. So whether that's at the police department or criminal investigators, we'll have to ask those questions, and with the help of this committee, I hope that we can understand if we are in compliance or what are some of the processes or policy amendments that need to be changed so that we're in compliance with those federal regulations. In terms of the shortage of funding, I will certainly look for that report, as I believe that should be something critical. And we could follow up with, when I say we, myself, the committee, the council, can follow up with our Department of Justice, the Attorney General's office, and see if they have reviewed that report and if there's any legal action that is being determined to address this chronic shortfall from the federal government when it comes to law enforcement and protection. I appreciate that Madam Chair was able to attend the annual Four Corners Conference. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to attend as we had massive flooding here in the community, but we do have a long history of working with Kyle Nabak. And so the positive is he does know pretty much individuals that work here in the Navajo Nation. I would say some of the opportunities that we have with Kyle is accountability when it comes to these declinations and understanding the cases. Kyle and I also serve on the Not Invisible Act Commission, and he is the co-chair of the supporting resources. So how AUSA will be working with tribal communities. So we definitely should give him a list of action items that we need to see from AUSA, which includes beefing up their victim advocate component. Right now, according to his last report, he only had 5 victim advocates for all of the communities in New Mexico, which is about 22 different communities, and that is not enough to serve those communities adequate and to provide the type of resources that families need to understand the system. In terms of behavioral health, we can work with the Oversight, Health, Education, Human Services, and Dr. Branner and her team on how they're building up their behavioral health program. When they received approval from the council to start third-party funding agreements, I know that opened up different opportunities, and I'm not sure in their planning if they're looking at specific 638 programs when it comes to mental health, but definitely having a conversation, as these are a lot of overlapping issues. And I hope then I was addressing all of the concerns. We will send out this working draft is what I read for the record was what was submitted last year. And so this working draft will have to include the additional 4 questions that were asked by the Office of Violence Against Women. And that includes, let's see, the 4 questions of if there's any regarding administering tribal funds and programs. So 2, enhancing the safety of Indian women from domestic violence, dating violence, sexual assault, homicide, stalking, and sex trafficking. 3, strengthening the federal response to such crimes. And 4, improving access to local, regional, state, and federal crime information databases and criminal justice information systems. So thank you, Pro Tem committee members. I'll yield back the floor.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair, for your response. Gonna go ahead and move on. Moving down the line. Sounds like a country song. So, you have the floor. Eugene So, you have the floor.
Diego, Banahado, and he told on Sonus. I kind of went off to drop it slash a phone. Hasing this adult always has the victim jiggy, etc. In the context case of she as a personally, I need what it's to this day I still feel the emotional, and I still feel that because of that physically I and the Hasing to take that when it's a little when it's actually at the hard case. I lost my first sister and my younger sister, one for so many years, and one was abducted and was raped and killed. So I have been since the case of Annie, Bine, so like I always say, emotional, spiritual, and physically, and now mentally, I learned the case also. Highest in the setup, but I think to have vaccines the cost of all the things. You always try to blame yourself sometimes, but welcome didn't happen. A lot of things like that go through your mind when it comes to you. So you try to block it off now and then. Because every bunch in that case, I need to that is can't when that was data. That these all all to us all Navajo Nation. But as is those root days in the job. Harder they going to sky to Diego, Kate on the root days in doggy. ARC Pahia on the Navajo Nation. We share elsewhere as also. The rated he could be prosecutors and then of our state dam, United States state of prosecutors and then Chris Kandashin. I've been at Gito aid Abazan go a I now what in Hello Aja don't own enough Nalon Taha. I the kitchen dealnish. Harder like train, harder like base of Hela. It and a lot of where Agita where after the Ghana. The city go a yati the net action plan. You go a koto at on home go. So don't need so go. So it say so go in has agi. As for her coffee in the much has sent oki a is needs to be not up in the hoita. So what I will go a I just no yes. Instead of fighting our own kids, we need to grow them up and let them fight the negativeness in Zeno. They have negative. A kitchen as Mr. List. A shipping Yalianes, quite catch it, neither Ashan, Alanet, Ashan, no, he did need all it. A a younger generation. So we had to start from parenting, we had to start from ground level, from the house. Even these things all we're just in a race. The more crime, the more police, more crime, more money, etc. That's where we're at. That's all the prosecutor. On later, though, a basic yagi say, Nisha, I see it. So, what I want to have ACTA and so on. That's why I wanted to get involved with the next action plan. And I saw that they're trying to use it as a Western. But they don't understand it comes from the birth. And later, it's all yet. Oh, even now, go Deacon has Naki Macradi, though she had though very harsh in the how that a corn that in the yard are we should see. The corn of us should that A be had this as she on sort of answers case because these things are really there as a fact. It's not what I need. So we wanted to know how it can be resolved, what can be done. It has still the other digital cost. So any so far should not let she has for the time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, go back. Hold on. Any other questions from the committee members at this time? Not hearing anything. I'm going to go back to Madam Chair, Crotty, for answering Honorable Eugene So's questions. Thank you. Madam Chair?
Yes, thank you, Pro Tem. Also, though, Delegate Eugene So. So your cases with your sisters really, it demonstrates the lack of communication and, in my opinion, respect to the families who have suffered a violent action. And our efforts are to continue to keep not only Navajo Nation law enforcement, but our state, county, and federal law enforcement accountable to keep that information current and to reach out to the families. We attended a training regarding cold cases and new technology that's available, cutting edge technology to help families get answers and to solve these cases, whether it's cutting edge DNA analysis, how they use their mitochondria, which now we know was used for that Golden Gate serial killer. What they've asked us as a nation is, what type of technology do we want to use to help solve some of these cases? Because it does mean sharing biological information like DNA. It does mean that if a family member is in a DNA system, they may be able to link back through at least the father's side using mitochondria on if individuals then are either suspects in the crimes or have physical evidence in some of these murders to help with some of these cold cases. And from this consultant, what they recommended was for the Navajo Nation to have a conversation about what is some of this cutting edge research. This is an area I'm not quite comfortable with. I have now learned I have a boundary, and I am not quite comfortable when it comes to the investigation part or the post-mortem part. But there are others that we work with in our missing and murdered and relatives that go to these trainings, that provide this information and advocate for the families. And if there could be a council delegate who's also then comfortable in having these follow-up discussions, I could be there with the discussion. I just don't feel that is a space where I feel comfortable in. Similar to like human trafficking, I've let Delegate Nathaniel Brown take the lead on that because my children at the time were so close, and in terms of age and being, targeted. So I would need the help of the committee if there is a delegate or someone in leadership who is comfortable having these conversations to understand what are other options we can give and provide to our people. So if the federal government is under-resourcing us, that means when something is either sent to Quantico or something is sent to a state lab, because those are government labs, they're not necessarily going to have the training, the technique, and most importantly, the funding to try to solve these cases. The other area is just like when L'Oreal Cisna Ginny was shot in Winslow, and there was an effort to get a private investigator. There also needs to be this honest conversation about if we don't have the capacity as a nation to address all of these calls that are coming in, or the amount of homicides, or looking internally, then we have to look at what resources we need to bring in and provide that to our people as a function of our government to make sure individuals are safe. I agree with your comments regarding the approach that currently the Diné action plan and how they're pulling together. I think the challenge here is we have facilitators who are doing their best, but not having that anchor or roots in Navajo wellness model or lifeway teaching does limit on what we can do collectively as the net advisory, the net action plan committee. But those are just facilitators. We always can, as leadership and with this committee and in your future involvement, have those conversations. And Delegate Brown has been helpful when it comes to like human trafficking. He'll coordinate Hatasli's, traditional advisors, and we get the stories of what have been presented in the past. What are some of the teachings? How do we move forward? How do we instill those values? How do we make sure we protect one another? And we could do that either on our own or bring that to the net action plan next proposed meeting in September. And we can follow up with Shiaj, gosh, his name just slipped my mind, Roman, because Roman does have that experience. We'll just see how much of his knowledge is being embedded into this process and get some guidance. So I hope I answered your comments and your questions. And it really does go back to the families. But once you start looking at the data, you'll see how many of our families are in crisis. How many of our families, especially when you look at the education data, how many scan reports that suspected child abuse or neglect. When we look at how many of our children are out of home, I think it's on average 1,200 Navajo children a year are taken out of the home and placed somewhere else. So it is going to need, the families to be supported, but we also are in a critical crisis situation that we must address, and working collectively, how are we going to, move or change the way we do stuff so that our families can get the support that they need to prevent this violence, to prevent all of these ideations and our people missing. So thank you, Pro Tem Chair. I'll yield back the floor.
Thank you very much for answering the question for Honorable that was posed by Honorable James Saul. I believe that's just want to add one thing on top of this before I go back to the colleagues. This TAP that our Chief Justice has moved to pull the nation out of on the reporting mechanism on these violences, as in their view that someone from the nation is making sure that they're written down. But you did allude to indicating that it's been written down, but it's slow. I think through the victim rights bill that's being drafted, we need to spell it out clearly in there who's responsible. Since the Chief Justice has willingly pulled the nation out of that on someone taking writing that information down, maybe let's put the burden on her. Let's give that responsibility and let's codify it in law so that she is responsible for it. Because right now, if she pulled the nation out of that, she should know. She should have informed us on who's writing it down, who's putting these things into record. And somebody is, but it's going at a fast pace. And I think we need to really look at that and dissect that to include timelines and so forth. Because if we don't include timelines, it's just going to be like, for instance, as an example, evaluations. Any employee evaluations, you take, it's the supervisor's responsibility to conduct the evaluation, but usually they overlook it. So in this case, who's writing that down? We need to make sure that it is written down, and we do hold someone responsible for that. Because if that person that's writing it down now and is not held responsible, the same work will continue. That they will be writing this information down slowly and I don't know, maybe milking the system. But we need to hold the entity responsible for doing that to say, hey, we're writing this down. So if they're writing it down, let's put that responsibility on them, codify in law, and put stipulations in there. If they don't write something down, let's put down something happens to the program. That way, we have the program on their feet on the reporting mechanism pertaining to this issue. Shema. See, that's just a recommendation. That's not those information. So with that, let me turn the floor back over to Madam Chair. Crowdy.
Oh, yeah, Pro Tem, thank you. There was a request to Ms. Spencer if she could assist with that recommendation that the committee and the entities that would be involved in the Tribal Access Program coordinate either a work session or a training, and our federal partners are willing to provide that high-level training and re-examine the conversation on how Navajo Nation will implement the TAP. And that is critical, as we need these, at the very least, these protection orders to be inputted, and committee members can learn what is the extent of building up that database and how that could help with some of the critical areas that we're talking about, especially when it comes to violence and how that's used, in background checks, how that system is used currently is being primarily used for social services. So we have 2 kiosks, I believe, and we always, they're willing to provide more, but they really haven't seen Navajo Nation utilize the system to its full potential. So if we could have that, and I will prioritize this on my calendar whenever the committee arranges that training or that conversation. Thank you, Pro Tem.
Vice
Awesome.
Chair,
Thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Chair, for that. And with that, sounds like Madam Chair Charles Noon has a follow-up. So I'm going to go to Madam Chair Charles Noon. You have the floor.
Thank you, Vice Chair. I just want to inform the committee again. I did inform you before. We are working on a book. It's kind of a public safety and justice booklet, which details the data and the statistics. So the reason why this book was created was because, as many of you know, when we go to Congress and we start advocating for increase in funding for various services, they usually ask us what the data and the statistics are or what the numbers show. So for that reason, I have been working with the judicial branch as well as the prosecutor's office, Division of Public Safety, Criminal Investigations, and we've been putting together the data that is needed to increase funding, as well as address the public safety and justice needs, such as the infrastructure needs for Navajo Nation. The booklet actually is coming together right now, and that's one of the reasons why I'm hoping that we can include a section here on VAWA to talk about, what is happening here on the Navajo Nation with VAWA. And so I just want to inform the committee once again that the booklet right now it started off kind of small with just, a few pages, but it's turning into an actual booklet right now. My plan is when we do move forward with the Title 17 amendments is to include this on the record and to show that Law and Order Committee in the last 4 years, this is the work that was done. And this is what the issues are with public safety and justice on the Navajo Nation. And these are, some of the things that we have, worked towards in addressing those issues. So just know that is the booklet is ready. I do have a copy of it, and I believe it was sent to the committee already before. But the problem is you have to have InDesign to be able to access it. There is a PDF document, but the PDF document is written up, there's notes on it. So I'm hoping we can get a clean version of that to get that sent out. And again, this booklet will be, I'm planning to introduce that during the Title 17 amendment, I guess, Nabikiatke, and also council, our special council session, to bring this up and say that this would be a booklet on behalf of the Navajo Nation Council through the Law and Order Committee and the work that has been done in the last 4 years. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Madam Chair, for your follow-ups there, and pertaining to the plan there. But I guess a lot of these things that Madam Chair has brought up is geared towards the planning to the overall goal of the amendment of Title 17, so that a lot of what has been inside the Tribal Access Plan and inside the other amendments pertaining to public safety, and those could be inserted into the Title 17 so that we can be ready. And then the implementation of the Tribal Access Plan, and I believe that's renamed to the NAT Action Plan. And I believe that discussion is ongoing at this time. So, with that, Madam Chair, is there anything that you wanted to add to the last comments that Madam Chair Charles Newton has posed? Madam Crotty?
Thank you, Pro Tem. Yes, we've provided, and I received a copy of the draft public safety book, and so I'm not sure if there's an ongoing meeting or how we want to move forward. We do have space on Friday mornings from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. every morning or every week to discuss. We have a work group in terms of sexual assault prevention work group, but we deal with domestic violence and other type of crimes in the community. If we could lock down a date and a time to have a follow-up, and we'll be able to provide additional information and build up a comprehensive response from Navajo Nation, and especially what we're learning from that data and how collectively as leadership do we want to address crime, how do we address the prevention of it, and how do we support our communities. So thank you, Pro Tem.
Okay, thank you very much, Madam Chair, for the follow-ups. And with that, is there any questions to the report that has been presented to the Law and Order Committee? The questions pertaining to the 17th Annual Government to Government Violence Against Women Travel Consultation. Going once, going twice, and 3 times. Terrell, go ahead and continue with roll call vote.
Honorable Vince James, how do you vote?
Continue with roll call vote. I'll call it 3 times. Thank you.
Honorable Vince James votes green. Honorable Eugenia Charles Newton, how do you vote?
I vote green.
Honorable Eugenia Charles Newton votes green. Honorable Eugene Sill, how do you vote?
Oh.
Honorable Eugene Sill votes green. Honorable Edmund Yazzie, how do you vote?
Green.
Honorable Edmund Yazzie votes green. Honorable Vice Chair Otto Soya, 4 in favor, 0 opposed, and Vice Chair not voting chair.
Thank you very much. 4 in favor, 0 opposed, Chair, Pro Tem not voting at this time. Coco Epe, Coco E, Nas Naho, just list on the agenda. Motion carries. Thank you very much, Madam Chair, Crotty, Amber Kenneth Crotty, for your report pertaining to the 17th annual government to government violence against women tribal consultation meeting, September 21st, through the 23rd, 2022 in Anchorage, Alaska. Ben, moving down the line, number 8. Closing of meeting. Is there any announcements at this time?
Vice Chair, after Eugene So, I'd like to make a few announcements.
Okay, thank you very much. Honorable Eugene So, to number 8, announcements. What is your announcement?
My announcement, let you know, all this year since 2 months old Shanna, family son, my brother, my aunt, just last week, and nephew, and then another cousin this week. So these are real, my tough situations where I'm going through. So I had to check this wrong, but I'm going to say, God, I need a free, I was done. I need the street to know. I did the hospital, but he said, oh, we got seen, I thought it was about. Where's not enough? Where's not enough? I had met. I need that. So I'm thinking in that sort, and it's really I'm going through a lot. Eating potatoes. I asked a question that I didn't really get the answer back to Claudia. If I can attend the answer because I just to see what's going on. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Vince James, you did indicate that you're still on the line, correct?
No, it was quiet there for a while, so that's why I was saying hello, anybody on the line, but I can hear you now.
Oh, okay. Madam Chair, I'm going to come back to you for announcements. You have the floor.
Thank you, committee members. Just as a reminder, committee members, that we do have tomorrow a discussion on the Veterans Courts. I know that was presented to us a few times. We have a meeting that will be scheduled. I realize that that Nikita, if you could send it out to the Law and Order Committee members. I know it's last minute, but I do apologize. I just realized that you were not included in that meeting. So if we can if you guys have time at 11 o'clock, it's the Veterans Court meeting. In addition to that, committee members, I believe from 10 to 12 on Wednesday, they're having the Kayenta Township Fire Department. I think they're having like a fire truck dedication that they invited the Law and Order Committee members to. I will be present during that time. I'm not sure if any other committee members will be present during that time, but just an FYI. Also, we do have, I believe this Thursday, we have Nabikietskit that's scheduled at 10 o'clock. Again, just a reminder on that. On the 30th of August at 1 o'clock, we do have a 105L lease meeting with the Bureau of Indian Affairs. I just now accepted the invitation on that. I can go ahead, it's with Jason Friage. Who is the who's working with the Office of Justice Services. I can have him include you guys. I can't see who all the people are who were invited to that meeting. The only thing that I see is just his name. So I'll see if I can forward that to all of you so that you have that information. Also, committee members, just as a reminder, again, August 31st and September 1st, we do have the Nabikiatske budget hearing that's scheduled at 10 o'clock in the morning. The week of September 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th, we do have the Navajo Nation Council budget hearing, and this is the council budget hearing scheduled for that week as a reminder. So we have the 12th for the 10 o'clock Law and Order Committee meeting on the 19th. I will be excusing myself from that regular scheduled Law and Order Committee meeting. Vice Chair, I'll be sending you an email asking you to chair the committee meeting at that time. I will be traveling to Alaska during that time. There is a women's tribal leaders meeting that will be held before the tribal consultation, and that's scheduled on the 20th. And I was invited to attend on behalf of the Tribal Interior Budget Council. So it looks like that whole week I will be in Alaska on behalf of Public Safety and Justice for Tribal Interior Budget Council, and then on behalf of Law and Order Committee, I'm here for the 24th Navajo Nation Council. And then on the 6th to 26th, we do have a regular scheduled Law and Order Committee meeting. So I do want to make that announcement at this time to let you know that we do have those upcoming meetings. In terms of next week on the 29th, since we didn't have a Law and Order Committee meeting on the 15th because of a Navajo Nation holiday, we do have the 29th available. I don't know, it is not on this agenda to vote on, so we're not going to add it. So at this time, we do not have a Law and Order Committee meeting scheduled on the 29th. So that is my announcements at this time, Vice Chair. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. Well, Madam Chair, pertaining to the meeting on the 20th, maybe it proposed or maybe it's off. If there's anything that comes up, maybe we could go ahead and shoot for something if it's the last minute legislation or things like that. So, or if anything pops up, we would have that to go, and just keep it on your on the radar that we might utilize it. So, anyway, we'll move forth. Any other announcement, committee members, at this time on item 8? Not hearing anything.
Another question.
Announcements and announcements, questions. Number 8, announcements again. Number 8. Going once? Eugene So. Eugene So, number 8. Announcements. Go proceed.
So I wanted to ask a question in regards to my marriage equality legislation that we passed is not going forward to the BNF. I wanted to ask that question. Maybe Madam Chair could say that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I guess just as a recommendation from the chair, what I would do is, Honorable Eugene So, since it's your legislation, one is that you could reach out to the last standing committee that had that, and I believe that last standing committee is Health and Human Service section. So with that, Health and Human Service, that's a resolution that's assigned, and if it's not signed, the resolution will not move forth until to the next standing committee until the resolution is signed by the chairman of that standing committee. But if the standing committee the last standing committee has signed off on the resolution and it's destined for Budget and Finance Committee, it's Budget and Finance Committee, they added on. And one option is go ahead and contact Peggy to see where it's at on with the upcoming schedule of the Budget and Finance Committee meetings, because Budget and Finance Committee only meets once a month. So we have probably a Budget and Finance Committee meeting coming up, a regular meeting in the first beginning of September. This month, the is lean, and that was probably geared to the budget hearings to approve the resolutions. I don't know, but that's one of it. So maybe reach out to the to Peggy, and she can give you a definite, most definite answer on why it hasn't get to Budget Finance Committee yet. So it did on the Moses from Health and Human Service. So those are the two individuals that I think you can reach out to and see why it's not moving over to the next standing committee. What's all? You think so?
You should pay the general budget finance, just health education though, but supposed to go to the budget, but hasn't gone up yet. In your general position. So that's what's going on.
Oh, Jerry Bosch, you would have to speak with the advisor, because agenda I don't like has on it. So if it's the last committee here and the resolution was signed and it is out there, Office of Legislative Counsel or Legislative Services, Manuel Rico, excuse me, Manuel Rico would put out an email indicating that that certain legislation is destined for the next standing committee. It's ready for committee action. Budget and Finance Committee, advisor. That's one option to explore. If law and order, well, let me pose this question to Laureen. Laureen, has law and order committee signed off on the Honorable So's legislation that's pertaining to the Marriage Equality Act and the amendment to the Marriage Equality Act, and when was it sent over and who was it sent over to Office of Legislative Counsel or Legislative Services? Laureen?
Thank you, Vice Chair and members of the Law and Order. The committee report was given to Jalissa Johnson at tracking section. Mr. So, Eugene So, you need to check with Jalissa over here at the office at Legislative Services tracking section. Although Budget and Finance, the budget it's called another meeting a budget under I thought it's going another like the Aja a Peggy a not at least so I can check with her too. Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much, Laureen, for clarifying that. And Mr. So, Eugene So, Laureen,
It is since the office edit up a lot of things out of the facilities that all from here. It should be in the budget committee. I did ask other stress to thank you.
Oh, so the budget hearings on they even Coco, they haven't addressed any legislative issues. So it with that I'm gonna go back to the floor again one more time. Announcements. Any other announcements, committee members? Not hearing anything. Going once, twice, and three times. Gonna proceed with motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Motion to adjourn made by Honorable Eugene Charles Newton. Seconded motion, I'm going to take Honorable Eugene So. So with that, there's no questions. And Terrell, can you proceed with roll call votes?
Honorable Vince James, how do you vote?
Delegate Newton votes green.
Honorable Vince James votes green. Honorable Eugenia Charles Newton, how do you vote?
Delegate Charles Newton votes green.
Honorable Eugenia Charles Newton votes green. Honorable Eugene So, how do you vote?
Oh,
Honorable Eugene So votes green. Honorable Edmund Yazzie, how do you vote?
green.
Honorable Edmund Yazzie votes green. Honorable Vice Chair Otto So, you have 4 in favor, 0 opposed, and Vice Chair not voting. Chair.
Awesome. Thank you very much for that. Motion carries. 4 in favor, 0 opposed, and Vice Chair not voting. And we adjourn at 12:26 p.m. Thank you very much, committee members, staff, yeah, with all your on the line and helping us with the meeting here. Yeah. And with that, I'll go to line. You guys all have a safe day and take care. And Dada, yo. Thank you.